Hello, hope everyone's having a good day and is ready to get started another video in the series we like to call Underrated Throwers. So today we got Okoye from the UK. He's the UK and a British national record holder at 68 something meters, I forget. This isn't that throw, this is a 67 meter throw. Fun fact, he broke that national record in the same meet that Robert Harding went over 70 meters the first time. In Halle, Germany. So, by the way, if you guys are interested, look up that video. Ishan Adadi and Peter Malachowski also threw over 68 there. It was a crazy competition. Wish I could have seen it, but that was back, I think, in like 2012. So, actually, no, I'm sorry, not 2012. Actually, it might have been. I forget the exact date. But I chose to do a video on him, one, because I've never seen someone actually break down his throw before. And two, I think he has a very unique story and he's a very unique thrower, both technically and physically, I should say. So, one of the most unique things about him, and you can't tell, let's see, can you tell by the way he's holding this disc? The video's a little grainy. So most people hold the discus like more towards the tip of his fingers and like the second knuckle, the first knuckle. But Lawrence Okoye actually holds his disc from the second knuckle. So it almost looks like he's gripping the discus. And I don't know if that's just because he has really big hands or what. I've got to see him throw in person before last year. So that was cool. And I wanted to ask him about it, but they wouldn't let me through the gate because I was at the Mount Sac relays and he was busy competing and stuff, and only athletes were allowed over there, sadly. So I was bummed about that because I wanted to ask him some questions. But another unique thing about him is that in the prime of his career, so after 2014 around or something like that, he went and joined the NFL and retired from discus. And he went into the NFL for a couple years. And he just recently came back, I think 1 or 2 years ago. Just got a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games, I think last year. And it's just a great story, in my opinion, about because he's a lot older now, a whole lot older now. Still throwing around like 66, 67 meters, which is crazy to be gone from the sport for so long. So, but another interesting thing about him, and I guess I'll play this, fast motion. This video's in slow motion. But if you notice, he looks a little like stiff. He's one of my definitions of not a traditional build for a non-reverser, I should say. You know, he is quite tall, so, but he doesn't look the most mobile person, even though he is. But he doesn't throw like he's super mobile. If anything, he kind of throws a little bit like Christian Che a little. And we're going to get into that right now. Oh, I also forgot to mention, he's a 2012 Olympic finalist and I think a 2-time world championship finalist as well. I know he's at least a 1-time in 2011, I think. Yeah. No. Was he? I forget. I'll link all that in the video description with his personal best and his height and weight. But let's get into it. So nice wind. Oh, also another unique thing he does is, and they didn't show in the video, but he likes to go. So he goes like 1, 2, 3, then wind back, and that's like a very unique wind. It's hard for me to show you in video form when it's not in the video. But if you want to just look and see what he does, because it just takes forever. But I mean, when you're that good, I mean, when you're a 67 plus meter dude, I mean, you can just do whatever the hell you want, I guess. So, who am I to say? So, his wind, very good, very simple, starts really tall. And this is what I mean by a non-traditional non-reverser. So, his right elbow's bent, and he's letting the disc catch up to his right hip. Now, it's in line with his hip. So it's not in front, and that's a very similar position to Christian Che. And what I also like is that he starts really tall and just sinks down. And then I really love this drop. This position is good. But most non-reversers, you see, people non-reverse when they're super mobile in their shoulders, and they can just hold the discus back a lot. Like you see Lars Riedel, Robert Harding, Jürgen Scholl, and stuff. So, I mean, this isn't a problem if you can get into the middle and finish like this, because obviously it's not like this position that he does right here isn't a problem, but it's a more advanced thing. Or maybe he just I shouldn't even say his physical limitations, because I know from the front of the ring he can land with the discus way far behind him. But we're not there yet. So, I don't know why he does that. Maybe it's just easier for him to do this. I don't know why Che does it. Maybe it's just easier for him to do it either. So, it's actually a unique thing that I wish I could ask one of their coaches or them in person. But, yeah. So, let's get into it. Really like this sweep. Nice around, long. Oh, also another thing he does extremely well is keep his right foot grounded while his left foot. So his right foot is basically picked up here, and his left foot is facing that way. That's very good, and it creates a nice stretch in his groin. And you'll notice that his right knee doesn't go in; it goes. Let me back this up. It goes out and then around, and that creates a tremendous amount of stretch and a lot of angular momentum into the ring. So this is where he starts creating his rotational force out of the back, and I really love his chest hold here. So he does kind of like a shot put wrap in the middle, because normally I don't see many people hit this kind of position in discus. Usually that left arm is a lot longer. This actually reminds me a lot of, this actually looks a lot like Peter Malachowski in the middle. He likes to do this. But he wraps and then keeps his elbow bent, but his shoulder is long. So that's good. And normally you tend to see taller people throw with a more bent elbow, because it helps them stay in the ring a little bit. Because when they have a longer left arm, they tend to not fit in the ring as well when they're sprinting and going through. And I think I will link this in the video description, but just off seeing him and off memory, I think he's around 6'6", 6'7". He's tall. So he's here, really nice. This middle position right here is fantastic. Just nice linear sweep. Boom, hits contact there. Puts weight on his right foot. Excellent catch. Actually, he has amazing sprint. Like, there's weight on his right foot there, and his left foot is already past it. Normally, you'll see people, and the right foot would touch down, and their left leg would be here. His right foot touches down and is there. And I say touchdown. I personally believe the touchdown starts not when your foot makes contact, but when you put weight on your foot. Because I think that's a more important thing to look at, because when it just touches the ground, you're not really doing anything. You need to wait until you put weight on your right foot or your left foot or wherever you're talking about in the ring to say that it touched down. But that's just my opinion. And I really like this, holding this. Really good. Starts to peak a little bit with his eyes. So that's not the best thing, but it's not bad. Really good here. Really good touchdown. Really good separation. Already going a little bit with his left arm. I would like to see his left arm a little less active here, but he is creating a tremendous amount of stretch. And as long as his left arm isn't pulling his right side, like it's not here, like if you can do this with your left arm, as long as you have the patience and the strength and the athleticism to be able to stay over your right. Because what normally happens when you're pulling this left arm too early, it's going to take weight off your right side, and you're going to be off it too long, and you're going to have a tendency to foul out the front a lot and not throw very far because it takes weight off your right foot. And his non-reverse, so like his actual release, is actually crazy. I was just looking at it a little bit before I made this video, because I've never actually looked in slow-mo or in detail on his throw, and I actually gained a new respect for his throw, because I've only seen like fast motion or like, well, I guess regular motion videos, and I've never actually broken down, because I kind of always didn't really like his technique until right before this video. Actually, I was actually getting ready to break down everything wrong with it, but after actually breaking it down, I'm actually pleasantly surprised, because I thought he threw all tight and relied a lot on muscle. Don't get me wrong, he is extremely strong and obviously very athletic to go from Olympic level discus thrower to the NFL and back, and still winning medals. So, and still competing at a world championship level. So, even nowadays. So obviously he's extremely athletic. And so he gets here. Boom. And I really love this ground contact with his right foot. So his right foot's there. And you see how he goes on the outside of his foot right here. So right there. You want to do that in a non-reverse, because that is what keeps you in the ring. So let me clear that. That's what keeps you in the ring. That's what slows down your momentum and keeps you on the ground. It's kind of like in javelin. You'll see this as well. How they'll go on the outside of their foot as well, to keep them from just flying forward and not in jumping in the air, and it forces them to stay down. So non-reversers do this as well, like true non-reversers. Non-reversing for reversers, like in practice and stuff, me personally, I don't care if you foul. If anything, I want you to foul. If I was your coach, I would want you to foul forward a little in a non-reverse if you're chasing it, because it practices transferring your weight a lot more forward and the kind of forces that are needed to reverse. But a non-reverse, you want to stay a little more down, and you won't get as much out. Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. You won't get as much height with a non-reverse, like height on your flight for the discus. But you get a tremendous amount of out and rotational energy and staying grounded. So that's one of the advantages of a non-reverse. But it takes a special kind of athlete, it takes a special kind of athlete to be a good glider or a three-turner and hammer. You know, you just need those special types of athletes. So here, and you'll notice also his knee is bent. So what happens is he goes here, he's driving really nice, and he does a unique thing that I actually don't really see that a lot. is he actually pushes this right knee forward. So if you see right here, so he's here, and then you see this in this one frame, and he pushes it like that, and that right there really, really speeds up his hips, really, and then really keeps him square and transfers his forces forward over his left leg. So you hear a lot of the times when people say you want to keep almost all the weight on your right leg when you finish. Technically, that's not true. Eventually, there comes to a point where you need to transfer some weight onto your left foot. If you barely have any weight on your left foot, one, it will slip under you because you need weight on it so it doesn't move. So you'll have a weak block. Two, if you never transfer forward, you'll fall back and fall away from the discus or whatever you're throwing, and you won't throw very far. And also, you won't have a follow through, so you won't get any out on the disc. So all it'll do is go up. So you're missing the out and the up. You're missing the out when you're supposed to have the up of the discus and the out of the discus. So once he starts sliding this, that means he's transferring all his weight into his left side right here. And then he gets a tremendous out. And you'll notice, and a lot of people don't like this motion right here, but you'll notice, so he's here, the discus out of his hand there. His block and is perfect. He's square to the finish. People don't realize that the discus comes out of your hand like around here. So all of this motion right here, people think is pulling. That's not pulling. That's just following all the way through. I kind of equate it to like you never see like a baseball pitcher just throw and just stop his arm here, because that's not powerful. Even when the baseball's out of his hand, he still follows through because he has to continue the momentum. All right? Because if he stops the momentum with his right hand, like if he just stopped his right arm here, nothing would happen. You know? Like it would probably just fall like here. So, I mean, you really, and I think a lot of people, like I know you throw with your legs and all that, which is correct, but I think a lot of people also forget that it's a discus throw, shot put throw, and you do have to use your arms at the finish at some point. Like you still gotta throw it. Your arms don't do nothing. There's a reason why we lift upper body and all that. So I equate throwing to a whole body throw. So you use your whole body. Like there are some coaches who will say, just shut down your left side and stuff, or don't use your left side because you'll pull. Sometimes pulling can be a good thing. Like, but it's in the context. Like right here, he's pulling his left shoulder. But what that's doing is he's pulling his left shoulder while keeping his right shoulder back. And that creates a tremendous chest stretch. So he activates his stretch reflex right there. So he gets that snap. And that's what you want. But you know, it's here. His legs are just done working right now. I mean, he's not applying anything more. So he's using all that stretch and then arm. Boom. Right there. And that's what you want. That's what you want when you throw. Is you still use your arm, but you just got to use it the right way. It can't be overpowering, but you still got to throw it. Because I see a lot of beginners when you tell them, oh, use your legs, and then they just forget to actually, throw it. So it's something you gotta watch out for when you're coaching beginners and stuff. Because you need to teach them early how to be violent with the implement and stuff, because it's a lot easier to say slow down than speed up to someone who's not very experienced with throwing. All right. So if you have an athlete and stuff, and they just like to hit the shit out of the discus and stuff, and just go 100%, that's a good problem to have. There are such things as good problems. You know, like a good problem is someone who's too excited to train or wants to do too much. That's a good problem. All right. And then it's the job of the coach to try to reel them back and explain, overtraining and all that jazz. So that's why it's important to have a coach. So, as well. So, but back to Mr. Okoye here. So here, boom. And also, so once the disc is out of his hand and he's following through, this little head movement right here. So you'll see a lot of discus throwers. You'll actually see a lot of coaches, tell discus throwers to watch the discus leave their hand. And I think that's a good cue in shot put. I don't think it's a good cue in discus. And here's why. Because shot put, the release happens a lot quicker. Because instead of going all the way around your body, it's attached to your neck and you just go like that. So the release happens a lot quicker. In discus, it takes all this time. And there are two reasons why I don't like people saying watch the discus leave your hand with your eyes. One is because it causes them to peak a lot, because they're just wanting to move their head a lot to get to the finish because it feels powerful and they want to see it leave their hand. And two, it slows down your release because it stops a lot of rotation in your upper body. So, and it slows you down. So I like to tell people to start with a block. So think about blocking instead of watching the disc leave your hand. Think about keeping your left side stationary. And I think that's a better cue than watching the discus, because if anything, I feel like it leads to even more pulling, because people usually say that when the athlete is having a problem pulling the disc and shinking it down the right sector if you're right-handed and all that. So I'm not a big proponent of that. I'm a pretty big proponent of that in shot put, but it's important to also realize that in shot put, your head doesn't stay stationary. It's your eyes. You'll notice every elite shot putter, their head, besides Filip Mihailovic, is not really just stationary, just square watching the disc. But if you see a freeze frame of them from the front, they're out of the corner of their eye, so their head is tilted this way, the shot's there. But if you see a front view, their eyes are watching the shot, and that's what keeps them in contact with the implement. So it's important to watch the eyes. So sometimes it's good to record from the front, but don't look at the head, because that slows down your release also in shot put. It slows down a lot of your rotational energy, and it makes you want to pull sooner. So just watch out for that as well. So right here, he's right here, boom, good. Oh, what? And I have a new respect for his technique, I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, I really love what he does here. He holds that right foot, he could have just stayed with his right foot there forever. But he follows through a little bit. I think I cut off the video a little too soon, so I didn't get to show you the entire follow through. But you guys get the idea. I will say, and it's hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure that's a sector line and that's a sector line. So I'm pretty sure he's a little over rotated. And I know that is something that he does, is he does tend to throw on this side of the sector. So that just means, for people who don't know, is that maybe one, he either offset this way, and it's hard to tell from this angle of the video. I wish I could get a back video of this throw, like a back view of this throw, instead of, this is like one of the worst angles to film. So it's hard to tell. So either he's offset this way, or what usually is the problem is that he over rotated, but it doesn't out the back, and it doesn't look like he over rotated. So maybe he's just offset that way. I have no idea. It's so hard to tell from this video. If I remember correctly, I don't think he offsets, but I could be wrong. Maybe he just offset for this competition because there was like a slippery spot in the back of the ring. That's also something that a lot of throwers do, is that they'll offset a little bit if they go to a meet and a ring hasn't been acid washed in like years, and there's like a spot that's just super slick that they keep slipping on in warm-ups. So they'll like shift a little bit either side during their warm-ups. That's something I do. Or you can just get a bunch of different types of throwing shoes, like Velosas are good to throw in like the rain and really slick rings, just because they're probably the roughest shoes, well, not roughest, but the slowest throwing shoes I've ever been in personally. Like I've thrown in the pouring rain, and I haven't slipped. I didn't slip in the Velocity, so but I would have in Nikes. So that's just a pro tip for you. Not that I'm a pro or anything, but you want to sponsor me, somebody. I don't know. I don't really care, but I think that's it. I think I went over everything. There isn't really too much to say. He has a pretty basic technique. Oh, sorry. I forgot one important thing. I forgot to mention why he has why he throws kind of like Christian Che. So Christian Che, right here, he also likes to keep his discus with him, like with his right hip. And then when he gets in the middle, he holds his shoulder and gets a tremendous stretch. So I think, and I hypothesize, they do this just because maybe it's just easier for them to feel that. Maybe it's just easier. Some people like this. Like need to go out of the back differently in order to create a wrap. So as long as you do that and land like this, I mean, the more important part is creating the landing. So like some people say, oh, you need to keep constant tension the whole time, but I think Lawrence Okoye and Christian Che have proven you don't really need to do that. But what you can't do is let the discus get in front of their hip. So this right here is the minimum. The discus is perfectly, that discus is perfectly in line with his right hip, and he just keeps it there. So that's what you want. That's like the bare minimum of acceptability, in my opinion. If you let it get in front, you're done, because it changes your orbit, and not in a good way. So it changes your orbit and you lose connection, and you tend to be way more overactive with your upper body. So but I would recommend first learning to throw with the discus back, just because it is easier to feel separation. But like Lawrence Okoye and Christian Che, I've been throwing for years and years and years, have world-class coaching, world-class facilities, and world-class like training and all that. So, I mean, they know what works for them at this level. And I think I said this in my last video or last couple. At this kind of level, there isn't really too much tweaking and stuff that people do in their technique, unless you're someone like Ryan Krauser. What they do is they try and just they already found what works for them, and then they just try and fine tune everything. Like, you might see like some people change a little bit here or there, but nothing like major. So over the years, I'm assuming like Christian Che and Lawrence Okoye, they found that this works for them. Like, there are old videos of a Gerd Cantor like winding like a Lekna, like super like all the way back, and he threw like 56 meters. But then he started winding like John Powell, and he instantly bumped up distances. So people try and overlook the wind, but just like in hammer, the wind establishes your throw, establishes your rhythm, establishes everything. If you have a bad wind, if you're off balance, if you don't put the discus in a consistent, correct spot, it's going to mess up your entire throw. So I think it's very important to learn how to wind. And it's not just even out of the back, it's on stand throws, because where you wind, so if you notice, so if you notice his disc here, and you'll see it'll follow a path. See, it's still at this level, and then it gets here. So if you notice that, so he follows a good orbit. Oh, damn, I didn't even clear that. But I hope this is making sense, kind of what I'm saying. The general rule of thumb is, there are two general rules of thumb for like this kind of thing. Wherever your left arm goes, your right arm will go. So if your left arm goes down, your right arm will go down. If your left arm goes up, your right arm will go up. If your left arm goes there, your right arm will go there. And that's what creates the orbit. Like, if his right foot, his arm dropped right here, his right arm would be up there. So he would have this kind of effect. And so his high point would be here. And then instead of this, his left arm would be up here and his right arm would be there. And so he would scoop the discus because his orbit would be the opposite of what he wanted. So that's the drastic things that can happen from your wind. It can really screw up your entire throw. So it's important to be very cognizant about how you wind, because that really affects your orbit. And orbit and discus especially is everything. Because if you do not have a good orbit, that discus is not going to fly properly. And the flight of you can do everything right in discus. If you do not have a good flight on the discus, it does not matter. It will not go far. If it's wobbly, if you pancake it, or if it just goes to the ground, or it just looks like a dying goose, it's not going to go far. You could do everything right, and then at the very last second, you can just screw up the finish. And that has some part to do with your orbit. Sometimes it has to do with pulling. There are many different ways that can happen. But this isn't the video for that. You can ask your coach or hit me up in the comments section, and I can go into more detail. Or if you guys want me to make a video on what can affect the release of the discus, you can do that. You can ask me, and I'll probably do it, because I got no life besides coaching and training. So I got free time. So if you guys want me to make a video on that, or if you guys want me to make a video on like any kind of technical thing and actually go really in depth, I can. But you just gotta let me know. But yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Once again, I'll put his personal best, his height, weight, and notable accomplishments in the video description. And have a good day.